Well, this week is my final reflection of my GTP year, and this week I'm going to reflect the end of my course. So at the beginning I was full of hope, I was hard-working, I knew it was going to be hard work, but I felt like I'd prepared well for it mentally and physically as well, and in preparation for the course ahead. So what have I enjoyed most about the past year? I've enjoyed teaching young people. I've enjoyed making a difference to their lives and having a positive impact. I feel like I have empathy for pupils and I'm able to put myself in their shoes. I've learned to plan lessons accordingly, and I've found it very interesting to monitor my own development of lesson planning over the year. At the start of the year, when I started to teach, I felt like I'd planned too much into the lesson. There was often no time for plenary at the end, and I was asking the pupils to do far too much in the lesson instead of focusing on a smaller amount of work and doing it very well. Now I plan assessment for learning into my lessons, so I'm not always doing plenary at the end, but I'm always referring to the assessment criteria which I write on the board, and I ask the pupils to refer to constantly throughout the lesson when they're devising their work, when I set them to task, when they're peer assessing each other throughout the lesson, and more often not at the end of the lesson when they're performing. I feel I've been able to reflect on my learning. I feel as if I've been able to take constructive feedback and use that to improve my teaching and use it for my own development and into making me into a better teacher. I feel as if my organisational skills have improved. I was quite poor at setting homework earlier on in the year. When I did set homework, I didn't really have any method of recording who had handed it in and who hadn't, and it was done in a very kind of disjointed way, and I wondered whether some people think, oh well, she's not going to check up, whereas later on in the year, certainly during this last term since Easter, I've had a very strict, organised way of recording when I set homework, and who is in and who is not when I set homework, and then who has handed it in and who hasn't handed it in. I'm still quite fair. I tend to give pupils another chance to get it in, but if not, I've been strict in handing out lunchtime detentions. If they don't turn up for lunchtime detentions, I've been handing out red cards after school, and that has reinforced the rules with the pupils about the importance of homework, and it's good for them to get into the discipline of handing in their drama homework, and I feel that I have improved this year in that area. And again with my red cards, I was doing them in a very kind of haphazard way of setting red cards and not always following them up, whereas now I have a system of writing them down in my diary, tracking them, monitoring them, and following it up with my colleagues, with the heads of houses, with the tutors, and having communication with them to ensure that the pupils know where the boundaries lie. That if they are set a red card by themselves, then they will do that red card, and that sends a positive message out really, that will make them think about their negative behaviour next time. I feel like I've had an input in creativity, making learning interesting and taking risks, as Ofsted wants us to do, and to challenge people's perception of learning. So they're learning in not always a traditional sense of coming into the classroom, setting to task, performing at the end, but by trying to find out different ways that pupils can learn. So for example, I wrote a Blood Brothers scheme of work from scratch from my own ideas, and at the end of that unit of work, I'd worked very much on characterisation, getting to know the major characters, and we ran a Jeremy Kyle television show scenario, a whole class role play that allowed the pupils to role play and improvise the characters that they learnt over the last 6 weeks, and also to interact with each other because they knew the characters so well. So, you know, I'm trying to think outside the box now, not just go the traditional route of assessing or planning lessons or delivering lessons, but thinking of different ways of challenging pupils in the classroom. I have a love of learning personally. I feel this is not the end of my training. I feel that we should all continue to learn in order to grow as people and certainly as facilitators of learning. And we should be able to reflect on our own practice and take feedback and learn from it. I feel I now have strategies in place in terms of policies, in terms of better organisational skills that I didn't have at the beginning of the year. What would I do differently? I think in terms of the skills tests, I would definitely do those earlier. I did them over the Easter holidays, and I regret that now. I think I should have done them much earlier, but I put it off because I felt the workload was so heavy earlier on in the year. But really, in those Easter holidays, I could have been writing my 2 essays, and I couldn't do that because I had to revise for the math skills test. I was really quite frustrated and cross with myself, so I would definitely do that differently. I think I wrote too many evaluations of lessons. I was evaluating every single lesson that I taught, and that was taking up a great deal of my time at weekends and in the evening, as well as lesson planning, as well as all the other day-to-day paperwork that teaching involves. So I don't think I'd write as many evaluations, and certainly after Christmas, certainly after the February half term, I felt I was writing them for the sake of it rather than the evaluations being an effective tool for my own practice. And also I would change the fact that I beat myself up quite a bit about not being so perfect, and not being so methodical in my practice, and I think that is a good thing, but not to the detriment of other areas of my life. I think it's a work-life balance, and I want to take that learning into my future career as a teacher, that I feel that I have to look after myself, I have to look after my family, as well as having this love, this passion, this dedication, this commitment to teaching. It has been tough. I've compromised my home life, my social life, my friends, my family. It's been hard, it's been very hard at times, but I've loved it because I am doing what I love. I hope I'm an inspiring role model for pupils, and I absolutely love that some pupils would look at me and learn from me and want to be like me, or I am, one area of my teaching has inspired them to go and do what they want to do. I am living the dream, and I hope I'm a role model for pupils in a positive light, rather than a role model that the media sets out in this current climate. I feel I'm a positive role model for teenagers that I teach, and I've loved every minute of it.